So welcome to an introduction to what's behind PHP static analysis. So does everyone hear me enough? Yes? Okay. So my name is Benjamin, aka Beram. Donc I work at Equino, and you can find on my blog some articles on these specific talks and more about it if you ever like to know more. So don't hesitate to go right there. Before starting to know what's behind this, what is static analysis? So with this phrase, with this sentence, we are first code analysis. So for code analysis, we are trying to analyze automatically some behavior just to understand how it works, how everything about the computer will work. Is it safe? Is it secure? Everything like that. We just want to know some things and doing this automatically. That's just the basic thing. If we had the static, it's just because we want to do it without running the program. That's all. We just don't want to execute anything except the analysis itself. So to understand better, we talk about dynamic analysis. We have code coverage, and with code coverage, you have to run your test. So you have to execute the code. That's all. With static analysis, we don't execute. So nothing. That could be a big problem for Drupal because everything it does at runtime. So sometimes with PHPStan Drupal, we have some there is some very hard things to do because we don't have the right to execute something. So I'm pretty sure you all know a lot of tools that already does some kind of this. So PHP itself does it. We have PHP-L, but there is PHPStan, Psalm, Fan, so there is a lot of them. And how do they work behind? So some of them at some point use regular expressions. I won't talk about this here because I don't like regular expressions, that's all. And honestly, it's kind of, we have a hard limit with this. So we are going to talk about tokens and abstract syntax tree. So to understand it, we have to know how PHP works. That's the beauty of it because what we are going to use already exists in PHP itself. That's how PHP works when file parser. So we have one file it takes, for instance, this one, and going to compile it at runtime. So yes, PHP compiles its code, but it does it at runtime. We are going to use the same kind of things. So the first part is called lexical analysis with the lexer, and we produce a stream of tokens. After that, we have the syntax analysis. And we are going to stop here for the moment. After that, we don't really care that the OP code as created is executed in the VM because we don't want to execute the code. So we just be here. So lexical analysis, tokenization, everything. In fact, it's really simple. You take a big string, it's your code, and you just decompose it into smaller chunks, which are that called tokens. And a token is just a symbol, and you just have a meaning to this. It's just you, for instance, if we take this sentence, it is composed of words, it has what spaces, and at the end, it has a full stop. So it's basically each of these things is a token. It's the same thing. In PHP, we have tokens. And those tokens, there is a lot of them. And you can see here, for instance, that to understand that we have a for each, all we have to find is the for each key. So there is a token for each. T for each is the name of the constant. You have access to this constant in PHP if you want. And to retry them all, it's great because we are using directly what PHP provides us. It's a hold function named token get hold. So since it's hold, it has a crappy, very crappy API. It has a creepy API because you are going to have an array of tokens, but each token will either be a single character or an array. And this array, it's kind of just 3 indexes. 0 is the identifier of the token. So the constants we see before was just the human name beside. Yes, there is this int. After that, we have the content and then the line number. So when we try to just see how it works, we have something like that. So it's not really beautiful to see, to read. So I'm just going to pass this. And in order to have something a little bit easier to read, so we have an open tag, and we echo, and after that we have a white space and a string. That's all we know for the moment. We just decompose our PHP code. It's easy, it's simple, and we could see that it's not really beautiful to see. But since PHP 8, we have a beautiful RFC that passed. So now we have this beautiful PHP token object, which is exactly the same as before. Sorry. Okay. Check. So it works the same as before. It's just easier to read because we know we have the ID, we have the text, we have the line, just easier. If you check one versus the other, it's kind of obvious which one is easier to read. But sorry, we are going to keep token getall just because it's mainly used. We still support PHP 7.4, for instance, until the end of the year, so that's the life. If we want to understand it better, so let's example. With this, I don't know if you know it, but PHP doesn't care at all if your file is .php or not. You can have a .txt, it's the same thing as long as it has an open tag. It is PHP code. Otherwise, it considers it as HTML. That's all. It doesn't care. If we check this one, no, it's good. Okay, thanks. So this one, we could see that tokens is yes, a lot of them for that simple code. And there is a lot of things we happen here. We have an open tag, white space, the class, the white space, the class name, but it's not really a class name, it's just a string. For this moment, we don't know. We know that it's a class name because before it, there is a white space, and before it, there is the class token. And that's what we are going to use here. In this example, if we want to check if a class name respects upper camel case, what we have to do is first find the class token, so the keyword, and then we have to do this mental jumping between, okay, so we have the class, a white space, it doesn't care at all, one white space, two, it doesn't care, you can have a return to the line, one space. And after that, you have a string, which is the class name token. And with this class name token, we can have the class name, the line, everything, but that's all. But it's not really beautiful to see. And that's a bit an issue with tokens because we need a lot of helpers with this. It's not really intuitive. It is really better with PHP token class, but we could see that we have some limitation because we are limited to one file for this moment. So if you want to check inheritance, you can't. If you would like to contribute to a PHP code sniffer, it's mainly based on them, so that's just as simple as that. They just have a lot of helpers. If you want to have fun later in the day, just practice with this. You see that it's not very hard to do. So to go further, we have to check with abstract syntax tree. So yes, it's tree. Yes, we are not talking about graph theory here. So nothing to be scared of. It's quite easy because an AST is just a data structure to represent the structure of your code. That's all. So to be a little bit easier to understand, if we just take this expression, the AST is this one. We have 2 multiply 3, and we had 4. That's all. It's just a representation. We just view a visualization of it, and with this, it's easier later to understand everything. So that's just an AST. We take the code, and we do a tree with this. So we are talking about abstract because we don't care here with the parentheses. It's already obvious that 2 multiply 3 is on this corner on its own. We don't need the parentheses. That's why it's abstract. Otherwise, we will be called so let's talk about how do we generate the AST. So we don't have access to the AST in PHP because as the maintainer of PHP tell that it's a bit creepy. It's not very beautiful, so they chose to keep it for themselves. But Nikita Popov is the creator of the PHP AST extension, and it's the same guy that introduced AST in PHP, in PHP 7. So it's not really a big deal. He exposed exactly what we want in the user round. And he's also the creator of PHP parser, which is a parser written in PHP, and that's the one we are going to use because it's directly written in PHP. So PHPStan, for instance, or Psan, directly use PHP parser. And that's the magic behind them. It's just this library. It has some nodes. We have a tree, so we need nodes. And you can see that I think some of this name already talk to you. You know what a for each is, equal, something like that. So it's nothing really fancy. And to generate hasty, we are just going to use this code. It's just as simple. All the things we are going to see after that, it's just this. It has everything we need. So if we take the same example as before, it's very boring. We just echo a string, okay? And if we take the other one, okay, we have HTML and we have the PHP code. We don't care at all. So let's take something a little bit interesting, an assignment. So what we see here is that we have going to assign something to a variable. We have everything we want about this variable because we have the name directly, we have everything. And for the assignment, we know that we have an operation. It's going to be an addition here. And we are going to add something at the left with something at the right. And just everything like that. We just read it and we understand it directly. So that's how we are going to do. And that's everything AST is based on. So let's go further. And with this, we have the same thing. We have a class. The identifier is the name of the class. So we directly have it. We just need to find the class. We have the identifier. So no mental jumping or anything. We have everything directly. And we know that this class has a constant. And that's all. With this constant, we know its name, we know its value, we have everything. Because every time we have the identifier and the value, it's a tree. It's nothing fancy about it. It's not really complex, but the ST will be huge. So yeah, if you don't read it, it's nothing we doesn't really mind. We just see that it's huge, yes, but you can already see that it's easier to read. You have the declare statement, we have a namespace, we have a class, this class has a name, it has a property, it has two methods. It's just as simple as that. We want to know something, we just have to traverse the tree, and we have everything we want about this same notion we want to know. If we want to know something about the property, we just have to find the property node, and with this node, all the child already contains all the information we want. So if we want to use AHT with the same example as before, just let's check if a class name respects our camel case. What we have to do is just find the class node, and that's it. We just have the name directly, so okay, it's very, very easier. So let's go further and just try to modify it, because with tokens, we can't modify the stream of tokens, otherwise we are going to break everything. But EST lets us modify the code directly. It's very annoying. Okay. So if we want to generate the code, all we have to do is change the name of the node, and that's all. And later, we already have something that's called the pretty printer that does print the code for us. So we have nothing to do, and that's how Rector works. That just use the AST and the PHP parser already provide everything. So if we want to go a little bit further here, we have this example. So we have a property that is not really typed, it's just in doc comments. And what we want is really type the property. Should be rather easy, because we find the property, we assume that we have something to retrieve the doc comment and do something beautiful about it, but with the node, we already have the doc comment method, so it's just really easy. We just have to pass the document. So all the tools we know already have something, and we want to remove it. So set attribute and setting to null. It's just easy, and we change the type. So for this, we find the type and we just add a node, and that's all. We use the pretty printer and it's over. So it's quite really easy to do this kind of things. And I hope you already see how Rector and PHPStan could work really rather easy all with this. So I think I have a bit of time to talk about this thing. So you can modify the AST at runtime if you are a C developer. I don't know if there is C developer here, but you can do this. It's really dangerous to do. They don't advise you to do it, but for some, I don't know, debugging tools, it could be interesting to directly modify the AST of PHP itself. So you have the right to check this. I think it's Datadog that uses this to do some APM work, or I don't remember if it's them. There are some company that does this and that modifies just to monitor everything. So it's very easy to do if you are a C developer. But so EST, it's really easier to work with tokens. I think everybody would agree on that. And PHPStan, Psalm, Rector, everything works on are based on this. This library is really, really useful because it has a lot of features. Everything we want already has it. Basically, you can use it directly. I lied a bit because there is a lot of work on PHPStan of Psalm to rewrite a lot of stuff like passing the document of stuff like that. But it's just as simple as that for simple exercise or just basic words you want to do. You want to check some stuff yourself. It's really, really awesome to work with it. What we saw here, so we use the same technique as PHP itself. yes, tokens and IST. It's we are just able to do simple stuff for the moment because we are limited to only one file at a time. But it's not really an issue for the moment. There is other talks to go further because we need to talk about something called reflection. There is a lot of things to do, but we cannot use the reflection from PHP itself because it's used at runtime, and we don't want to execute the code. So there is a lot of things to talk about it to analyze a whole project, but it's quite easy in fact. And I would like to add that a big up to Nikita Popov, because without him, we wouldn't have AST in PHP 7. We wouldn't have PHPStan. We wouldn't have type properties. We wouldn't have types itself. There is a lot of stuff that he did, and we have this because of him. So honestly, a great work, and it's really useful to do everything like that. Again. Okay. So, if you want to know more about how work static analysis, you can check my blog. I will add some articles later to go further on this. But I have also other talks about it. If you have any question, there's a lot of things to check on this. It's the documentation of PHPStan or Psalm, even Rector, is really easy to read. They decompose everything, even AST stuff and everything. It's really great. So you can work with them. It's really easy to do. And if you have ideas, so I really urge you to read some kind of those things. It's from the documentation itself. I don't know if you knew that PHP have a PHP internal documentation to explain everything, but you can read about the lecture or the parser. It's really interesting to know how they do it, the compiler, everything. So if you have any questions, it's the moment. First, thank you to the sponsor, and I think that's it. No question? No question? It's okay. So I think we are good. So, thanks everyone, and see you later. No? Ça va? It's okay?